been a while since I've done a dedicated review. It'd be fun to get my thoughts out on Rayhaan Pharaoh. Thank you to No Nonsense Frag Talk for the suggestion. I think he watched one of my Rayhaan Aquatica videos and, just asked if I could do a review on Pharaoh, which is going to be Oman Luxury's Caden. Of course, thank you to my friend John. He's the one that owns this. I don't currently have this in my collection, but that's what friends are for. This is a fun hobby to share with other fans of fragrance, and yeah, John just happened to have it, so appreciate you. Before we do anything else, I do have the dry down right here. It's been about 30 or 40 minutes. I'll go ahead and spray the opening, and we'll talk about everything regarding Rayhaan Pharaoh. I will say off the bat, the fragrance comes off on my skin a little bit different than my friend John. I think for him that saffron is really pushing through more, whereas for me, I definitely get the cardamom in the opening the most. And then it is interesting in this DNA, while it is a warm spicy amber, kind of that main middle focus is on the suede vanilla combination, as well as a little bit of coffee. I will say that coffee suede can throw people into kind of a gasoline or rubber smell in the mid of the fragrance. I will say this is less pronounced than the baby cat DNA, but they do share some similarities. And I will say because of that, go ahead and test this, get a decant, borrow it from your friends if you can. I think that olfactive experience will vary a lot and really determine whether or not you're gonna like this fragrance, since it is such a big, component of the fragrance. I do really like how interesting the opening is. Really in that first hour, I think it's really my favorite section of the fragrance. A lot of those spices just make the overall fragrance more complex. And then as you get into the dry down, you just get to notice those ambers, resins, vanillas, just coming through a lot more and settling down. Some slight woodiness too, perhaps. And I would say, at that point, the coffee does mellow out a little more, giving less of that rubbery feel, rubbery smell, depending on how strong that comes off to you. But again, generally speaking, everything mellows out, smoothens out a bit. I know John, my friend, as I keep mentioning, is a big fan of this fragrance. He really wears it year round, obviously going less sprays in the hotter weather. But I think some fragrances like this are kind of fun to test out in the hotter weather. They really pop off your skin in a different manner than in the colder temperatures. So it is something fun to experience, something you can experiment with, especially if you're pretty big into fragrance. These kind of things you take into account are kind of a big part of the hobby, part of getting even more enjoyment out of it. Of course, this is going to be suited more traditionally for the colder months and for more of those special occasions like date nights, going out, things of that nature. But I'm a huge advocate of just wearing what you want anytime you want. So I love to see that John, one of my friends in my own life, is doing so as well. Really don't want to feel pressured, in any regard. Maybe you want to consider people around you, the strength, the projection that's coming off, if it's cloying, if it's bothersome in that way. But generally speaking, if you're mindful, that won't be an issue. Overall, considering you can get this, below $40, I think the most has been pushed out in terms of quality that you can get at that price point. I really do think Rayhaan has been at a peak in terms of production quality. You can say what you want, of course. A clone house is a clone house at the end of the day. Rayhaan in particular, I don't really think they have any original fragrances. I know that some clone houses are getting bigger on that, having even their own accords. Like with Latafa, they have their own accords and captives that are only used for their fragrances, at least for the time being. Maybe within the contract, there's an amount of time, a duration that those captives can only be used in Latafa. But at the moment, Rayhaan doesn't really seem to be in that realm of things. Obviously, things could change. But if you are, someone who likes clones and ventures in the clone market, Rayhaan really is a good place to look. They have a lot of offerings and do generally a good job for the price you're paying. Obviously, the discussion of whether you support clone brands or not is totally different. That in itself is just kind of an endless back and forth on whether it's good or bad. For me, there's pros and cons, of course, but that's just like any segment in fragrance. So I don't really see anything in the industry as good or bad. We could talk about them more in another video, but that's just a slight touch on Rayhaan as a brand. Where they stand, the quality for the price really is there. They've made huge strides in terms of from where they came 2-3 years ago versus now. This is really their golden era, if you will. If you really love Pharaoh, of course, go ahead and try Caden. The original DNA probably has an extra layer of depth. I've been on my wish list for a long time, so I do want to pick up a decant really bad of Caden, as this is kind of a fragrance profile that really has me inclined to seek more of. If I were to make a recommendation on a fragrance that I really love in this segment, I think my personal top choice would be Spirit of Dubai Rumal. I've tried that a couple times as a sample. One just piques my interest a little more. I feel like the spice is slightly toned up. Dried fruits come out more for me. And I would say with the coffee suede combination in Rayhaan, you get a slight boozy facet that comes off a little different than, the richness that I think the dried fruits are giving in Rumal. They're in the same DNA, but by no means do they feel like clones of one another. Like Caden doesn't feel like Rumal or vice versa, but they do have overlap for sure. That being said, of course, Rumal is roughly around the same price point as Caden, and obviously both of those are going to be more expensive than Pharaoh. So it really just comes down to how much you love this DNA. Pharaoh could be a great way to start out, just to see if this DNA is for you. You could obviously get this, and if you're absolutely obsessed with it, go from there and continue to grow your collection with this type of DNA, that warm, spicy, resinous amber. But obviously the spice has a very distinct feel to it. You need a combination of, like cardamom, saffron to give you the warmth, the accord of warmth essentially. But I do urge you to try a sample of this. Obviously, I don't think this DNA will be for everyone, as I have mentioned a couple times in the video, but I really think this DNA in itself is worth checking out if you are, getting into fragrance more. I think it really can be a huge hit if this is something you are into. And it's just a nice combination of notes that you don't often get to, seek, maybe initially in your fragrance journey. So this would just be fun just to try out, just to get the learning experience out of, and then ultimately decide if this is for you. But for me, it is a recommendation. I do love it. I love what you are getting for your money as well. That's everything from me today. I didn't want to take too much of your time, but I do appreciate when others comment on my videos and, request me to do videos. I really like the idea of just bringing out the topics that the community wants. So that's going to be my main focus. Of course, in tandem, I'm working on my own projects that I just love making personally and don't necessarily worry too much about, how it comes off or how many people watch it per se. Obviously, if people love it and a lot more people do watch it, I'm stoked to see that. But there's a lot of benefits of, just being on any YouTube channel and just getting your thoughts out and learning all these skills. So it really is a great experience, and I'm just happy to be here alongside any of you who happen to join me. So appreciate you out there. This is Patrick. I'll see you in another. Take care.